Hey guys, so we are at a crazy part in our book where Ella now has a new spell cast upon her by Lucinda. Not only does she have to obey, now she has to be happy about it. So, this isn't good on her end. And her father's lost all of their money and he needs her to get married so that they can get back their money. So this isn't good. And unfortunately, the person who she's getting married to, she doesn't know. So we're going to hear about that, and it's not good. So, chapter 19. My guest's name was known to me. He was Edmund, Earl of Warwick, uncle of Hattie's friend Blossom. The uncle whose marriage she feared because it might cause her disinheritance, meaning that she wouldn't get money, Blossom wouldn't get the money if he got married or something like that. That's what inheritance is, you get money when someone dies. I suppose I should have been amused, but I was too lost in worry that the uncle would be unpleasant as the niece. I waited for him in the study, a half-finished square of embroidery spread across my lap. I had barely seated myself when Father opened the door. "This is my daughter Eleanor," he said. The Earl bowed, and I stood and curtsied. He was older than Father, with shoulder-length curled gray hair. His face was as thin as a greyhound's, with a long nose above the drooping mustache. He had a hound's sad eyes, too. Remember, hound is dog. Brown with white showing above the lower lid and bags of skin below. Ew. So if this is who she's maybe getting married to, he's like older than her father and his gray hair. Ugh, yuck. Let's not have that happen. Hopefully, I'm not going to say anything. I sat again, and he bent over the handiwork. "Your stitches are neat and so tiny. My mother made the smallest stitches, too. You could barely see them." When he spoke, I saw teeth as small as a baby's, as though he'd never gotten a second set. I could picture a toddler Earl peeking into his mother's lap and flashing those wee pearls at her exquisite embroidery. When we married, I would try to imagine that he was almost as young as his teeth. Oh, so it is the guy. Ew, that's yucky. Let's hope she doesn't have to actually marry him. Let's hope it's just scared for now. Leaving my side, he turned eagerly to Father. "You could not hold such a position as I heard you express yesterday, my friend," he said. "I hope you will explain yourself more fully." They were discussing punishments for bandits. The Earl thought that they should be shown mercy. Father believed they should be treated harshly, put to death, even as an example. If a bandit came here and made off with these valuables, Father waved his hand at the things that he was in the process of selling. It'd be unnatural if I weren't to be angry, and unnatural if I didn't act on my rage. "Perhaps you couldn't help being angry," the Earl answered, "but you could certainly stop yourself from repaying one's offense with another." So meaning what Earl is saying is that to his father that he shouldn't take revenge even though he's angry. So maybe he's not such a horrible guy, but still not good for Ella. I agreed with the Earl and thought of an argument tailor-made for Father. "Suppose the thief didn't steal outright," I said. "Suppose he robbed you through deception. Would that thief deserve the same punishment as a bandit?" "A different case entirely," Father answered. "If I allowed a rogue to cheat me, I would deserve my fate." So meaning if someone were to trick him into getting all his stuff, he would have deserved what he got instead of someone stealing it and then he wants revenge. Okay. The Earl nodded. "The cases are not so different," he said. If I am an armed bandit made off with your possession, you might be at fault for failing to protect your home. You might then also not be worthy of your wealth. Why should a robber sacrifice his life for your carelessness? The fact that you wouldn't lock up, that's not his fault. Your logic is stupid, although its foundation kind of makes sense," Father smiled. "Two opponents are more than I can defend against. You have much in common with my daughter. You are both soft-hearted." "Neatly done, Father." Now the Earl and I were a pair. Dinner was announced. Father led the way to the dining room, leaving the Earl to offer me his arm. The Torlin Currow, remember that's the mushroom that's charmed, appeared on our first course as a salad accompanying chilled quail eggs. The mushrooms are elf cultivated, Father said. Our cook found them in the market and I wanted to serve them to you, although frankly, I detest fungi. I will not eat them, but try them, Ella. The mushrooms are bland. Their only flavor came from the lemon and sage Mandy had sprinkled on them. I'm sorry, Sir Peter, said Earl. Mushrooms of every variety make me ill. I do enjoy quail eggs, however. So he's not going to eat them, even though they have that charm on them. The Torlin's Currow effect was rapidly. One more time. The Torlin Currow's effect was rapid. By the time Mandy had whisked away my plate, I was wondering why I had thought the Earl resembled a hound when he really was quite handsome. So if you're knowing what's happening, is that the mushrooms are having an effect on her, and she's now seeing him differently than he actually is. Even though he doesn't seem like a bad man, just not a man for Ella. I was liking Father, too. By the time we reached the soup course, I was calling the Earl Sweet Edmund in my thoughts and smiling at him after every spoonful. When the fish stew arrived, I suggested to Mandy that she give him an extra ladle. Father struggled not to laugh. Even without mushrooms, the Earl warmed to me. Your daughter is charming, Sir Peter, he said during dessert. I had no idea she'd grown up so well, he'd answered. I must marry her off quickly, or spend all my days looking over her. Back in the study after dinner, I drew my chair close to the Earl. Then I picked up my embroidery and tried to make my stitches so tiny that they were almost invisible. Edmund and Father were discussing King Gerald's campaign against the ogres. Father thought that the king's knights weren't aggressive enough. The Earl believed them to be valiant and praiseworthy and that they were doing a fine job. Although I wanted to pay attention to my sewing, I couldn't. Every time the Earl or Father made a point, I nodded my agreement, even though they disagreed. Then I noticed that the room was chilly and settled back into my seat for warmth. Perhaps we should build a fire, Father. I should hate for our guest to catch a cold. I've never seen Ella so gracious before, Father said, adding a log to the fire. She seems admired by you. I am, I muttered. What did you say, dear? Father asked. Why shouldn't he know how I felt? I wanted him to know. I am enamored, which is like infatuated or taken by or liking. I am enamored of him, Father, I said cheerily, smiling at sweet Edmund. He smiled back. This isn't the first time I sampled Sir Peter's hospitality and his superior table, but you were never here before. He leaned towards me in his chair. She was away at finishing school, Father said, at Madame Edith's establishment in Jen. The time was ill spent, I said, if it delayed our meeting. Father blushed. My niece Blossom is at that school. Were you friends? The Torlin Currow had no influence over my memory, but I hated to say anything that would cause sweet Edmund pain. Remember, she's still under this curse. That's why she's so in love with him. She is several years my senior, and we didn't quite become friends yet. Blossom is almost 18, I think. You can't be very much younger. I was 15 in September. So here's the thing, you guys. She's so young. She can't get married. The father's horrible. She's only 15. You are a child. He drew back in his seat, and I couldn't bear it. Not such a child, I said. Mother married when she was 16. If I were to die young as she, I would like to first have lived and loved. The Earl leaned towards me again. You have a loving heart, I see that. More woman than child. Father coughed and offered the Earl a brandy, which is a type of alcohol. Then he poured a small amount for me. Edmund touched his glass to mine. To the eagerness of youth, he said, may it always get you what you want. When he left, he took my hand. Tonight I came to visit your father. May I return to see you? You cannot come too soon, I said, or too often. When Mandy came to kiss me goodnight, I told her every word the Earl had said after I ate the mushrooms. Isn't he wonderful, I asked, wanting her to share my happiness. He sounds nice enough, she said, but not happy. Not like your father. He is a lot nicer than your father, she agreed. But father is wonderful too, I protested, still under the spell of the mushrooms. Yes, wonderful. She slammed the door as she left, sarcastically. I fell asleep telling myself stories in which I was a heroine and Edmund was the hero. But my last conscious idea was an image of Prince Shar when he'd caught the bridle of Sir Stephen's horse. His face had been close to mine. 2 curls had spilled onto his forehead. A few freckles dusted his nose, and his eyes said that he was sorry for me to go. Good. She misses Shar, so hopefully she doesn't have to marry him. Maybe he can get her out of it somehow. Mandy Milk woke me up when she had finished her work for the night. I was hard to wake. The toiling Carol still had me in their grip. I had been pondering, sweet, think back. Did Lucinda give you a new gift when she made you happy about being obedient? She didn't say. I closed my eyes and pictured our meeting. She said, obedience is a marvelous gift. Be happy to be blessed with such a lovely quality. Why? It wasn't a new gift, just an ordinary command. Don't be happy about being obedient, Ella. Be whatever you feel about it. I was happy to obey. No, I wasn't. The room spun and I didn't know what to think. I began to sob from relief, mixed with sadness. I had been a begging puppy and a delighted slave, yet I hadn't felt cursed since I'd met Lucinda. Now I felt cursed again and very angry. After Mandy had left me, I fell back to sleep and slept late. When I awoke, my head felt heavy enough to sink through the mattress. The mushrooms! I bolted up in bed, although my temples throbbed. Every moment of the evening before played in my memory. I pounded the pillow in rage at father for making such a fool of me. I was so embarrassed I could die. That's a hyperbole. Such an exaggeration, but kind of. I found a note on the table next to me. My dear Eleanor, you are a charming flirt. Wellick appeared at dawn to request my permission to declare his intentions to you. I dropped the letter, afraid to read on. If father wrote I must marry the Earl, I would have to do it. If he came home and told me, I'd have to do it as well. But before he arrived, I could act. Mandy would tell me that the letter's contents without making them in order. I found her in the hen house, talking to the chickens. A hen hopped up off its roost, and Mandy collected 3 eggs. Thank you. She went on to the next hen. Up, up. I need only 1 from you. To me, she said, do you fancy an omelet? She held the eggs while she read the letter. Sounds just like his lordship, she said when she finished, but it's safe to read. Father had rejected the Earl's suit. Upon close questioning, the Earl had confessed that most of his property had recently been consumed by a fire. He wasn't rich at all. He wasn't rich enough for father to marry me off. Poor Blossom. His inheritance wouldn't be much, whether or not the Earl married. Father continued, I haven't time now to find another suitor, but never fear, I shall secure a rich husband for you yet. For now, however, my own neck will have to go into the noose instead of yours. There is a lady who will wed me, unless I miss my guess. I have gone to offer my hand and to tell her that my heart is already hers. If my suit is successful, I shall send for you so that you may become reacquainted with her. Reacquainted, I thought. Does that mean I already know her? Spare her any tidings of your poverty, although I flattered myself that there is not a shed of greed in Dame Olga's affection for me. As an accepted suitor or a disappointed lover, I shall see you soon. Until then, as always, your father. Dame Olga, that means that Hattie and Olive will be my sister if this happens. Even though I was quite happy not to get married yet, I did not want this alternative. Oh no, this is so bad, you guys. So here's the thing. I do think it's better than her getting married right now. However, being Hattie's stepsister seems awful. Tell me what you think is going to happen. Have a great day.